As Israel continues the offensive to flush out Hamas terrorists and cripple the nexus between them and other global jihadist organizations, days after the deadly terror strike that has claimed over 1,000 Israeli lives, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei has now warned the Jewish state and its allies, saying there will be a global jihad if Israel does not stop its crimes in Gaza, that all sorts of resistance, quote unquote, resistance leaders will hit the streets all over the world and overwhelm those that are standing with Israel. Iran has long been suspected of providing logistical and military support to Hamas to carry out the ghastly crimes in Israel as the hostage crisis continues. Israel is currently planning a ground operation in Gaza in its mission to end the Hamas network, but could the conflict escalate as Iran saber rattles on the other side? Let's ask some of those questions. I'm joined by Charlotte Littlewood, Research Fellow of the Henry Jackson Society. Thank you very much for speaking to me. Now, one can understand that some Palestinians fed on a continuous diet of bigotry by Hamas could develop Israelophobia or anti-Semitist outlook. But what root cause could force, for example, British Muslims to enlist in this global jihad that Iran promises and support Hamas and what it stands for? And we've seen protests, of course, in England, in Britain. What do you think it is that drives this bunch?
First of all, just quickly, I'm head of the UK India desk for the International Centre for Sustainability. I no longer work at the Henry Jackson Society, just a quick correction. So the ideology that we're talking about here, its roots are before Khomeini, before Hamas. We need to look back to actually Maududi in the subcontinent, now in the area known as Pakistan, and his ideology in opposition to British colonialism. It was in his works writing about advocating for pan-Islamism and the Islamization of the state, in opposition to what he feared was British imposition on Islam. That inspired thinking that spread to one of the most important ideologues underpinning all that we see with Islamic jihad in the world today, and that's Qutb from Egypt. And he wrote a very important book for Islamic jihad, that being Milestones. Now, Milestones was translated by Khomeini into Persian for the sake of his ideology there. And he's deeply anti-Semitic, Qutb. He sees Jews behind all problematic revolutions as he sees them, including the fall of the caliphate. And this thinking has developed into a want to remove all Jews. And you see that being drawn out from interpretations of one of the hadiths, in which it calls that the end days will not come until the Jews are eradicated, and Jews will hide behind stones, they'll hide behind trees, the stones and the trees will turn around to them and say, a Jew is here, and Muslim will kill them. This intermingling of thought really does root back to Maududi, then Qutb, and Qutb has inspired Khomeini. So you really have to understand this. You have to understand the context as well. This was against British colonialism for Maududi. It was against secularism for Qutb. Qutb had spent some time in America. He was disgusted by secularism in the West. And he created an idea that took Maududi's ideas further. And he said there needed to be violent, offensive jihad to bring about Islam across the globe. And until then, there wouldn't be peace and there wouldn't be goodness on the earth. And he really, that thinking and his book Milestones are considered to be the linchpin of Islamic fascism across the globe as we see it today. And it is that thinking that comes through various groups and inspires the responses that we're seeing in the West.
Now, Charlotte Littlewood, what you're saying, anyone who follows this sort of strand of thought would sort of be acquainted with. And I'm sure that a large number of government officials in UK, in France, in Sweden, in Belgium would have known that fundamentally this is what sort of drives a particular strand of thought and society amongst Muslims in various Western capitals. Why wasn't this addressed?
We have a really problematic history with addressing this threat. So this Qutb was a part of the Muslim Brotherhood founded by Hassan al-Banna in Egypt. And we have various organizations with Brotherhood links. We have individuals that came from Egypt and set up these organizations in the UK. And the Muslim Brotherhood actually directly worked with the UK government at early stages to tackle violent jihad and violent Islamism. And I think it was these early mistakes of working with Islamists to tackle violence was very problematic, gave them platforms, money, influence. Another thing that we've seen in the UK is a real fear to engage with tackling Islamist extremism for fear of being called Islamophobic, a lack of faith literacy to understand that Islamism does not represent all of Islam, and moderate Muslims, in fact, are working to counter Islamist extremism. And the UK government has failed to really provide allyship to those Muslims and has instead provided room, space, platforming for Islamists. It has tried to change this tactic in latter years, but almost too late. And influence and infiltration has already happened. And the pushback from these groups, both legally suing anyone who tries to talk about Islamist extremism, politically pushing back, there's an element to which we have communities that will vote according to certain directions, which causes those in political positions to be shy on this topic. But then there is the issue that we see across the West of people being worried to engage.
Right.
And that really came to a head with our Manchester Arena attack, the Ariana Grande concert that was attacked. The guard actually at the Ariana Grande concert didn't call in the threat. He saw the terrorist with the backpack in the hallway, didn't call it in because he was afraid of being considered extreme or racist. And so he took himself outside of the building and guarded the bridge for a while.
Well, it's called appeasement here, of course, in India. And that's what's also cost us, viewers, as you all know. We leave it at that. Thank you, Charlotte Littlewood, for putting this into perspective for us. Of course, President Biden tomorrow is going to show up in Israel, and that could pave the way for a full-blown invasion of Gaza. What will that mean? We'll be interrogating that question tomorrow. Don't go away.